more on President Xi's visit to Finland, I spoke with Jacob Kirkegaard, Senior Fellow at the Peterson Institute of International Economics here in Washington. He laid out the top takeaways from the trip.
The highlight from this visit is that Xi Jinping chooses to go to a small EU and Eurozone member country before he goes to see President Trump. To me, we shouldn't put too much into the fact that he goes to Finland as opposed to another small member state, but the signal is pretty unmistakable. It basically sends the signal to the White House that actually China has got options. It's got a lot of things going to collaborate with the European Union on trade and other things. So it's really, in my opinion, first and foremost, a signal to the Trump administration, and then perhaps because it is Finland, and Finland right now is the chair of the Arctic Council, which is a part of the world that China has increasingly shown interest in. So that could maybe explain why it was Finland and not somebody else. But this is first and foremost positioning vis-a-vis Trump.
Let's look at their positions when it comes to trade. We know that President Xi Jinping and also Finland are really against this very protectionist movement. So a lot of people looking at Finland may be wondering then, why Finland as opposed to any other place, especially when it comes to their key areas of cooperation?
Well, I mean, you know, Finland and indeed all the small northern European countries are, as you mentioned, heavily trade dependent, as is China. And of course, therefore, they have a strong mutual interest in maintaining as open a global trading system as possible. And Xi Jinping, by this visit, clearly signals that China is willing to work with Europe to keep the global system open and functioning as we've been used to, almost irrespective of what the Trump administration does.
Now, let's also look at the agreements we saw on some of the environmental goals, things like air and water quality, agricultural innovation, etc. How do both countries really benefit from this?
First and foremost, China will benefit from having more environmental enforcement, better technologies, etc. And I'm sure that a number of Finnish companies would like to provide such solutions. So it would boost Finnish trade with China and hopefully help the Chinese economy and the Chinese agricultural sector become more efficient.
Now, we know that the economic slowdown in the EU obviously took a toll on Finland, and it's still in that process of recovery, and global growth still a concern. And then you have China shifting to slower, more sustainable growth with its own economy. What sort of challenges do you think these shifts could really pose to the China-Finland relationship?
Well, I mean, it's very clear that China, as this continuingly sort of growth juggernaut, that just continues to grow, and that Europe can continue to export, increase its export to, just as China has obviously been increasing its export to the European Union. Well, that phase is largely over. And it's really, from now on, a matter of deepening the bilateral relationship between China and Europe to not just be about trade, but increasingly about investments as well. And given the role of the government, state-owned enterprises, etc., in the Chinese economy, and very, very different legal system, there is a lot of challenges to deepening beyond trade this relationship, but also, obviously, therefore, a lot of opportunity.